Welcome to Gone Phishing, a show diving into the cybersecurity threats that surround our highly connected lives. Every human is different. Every person has unique vulnerabilities that expose them to potentially successful social engineering. On this show, we'll discuss human vulnerability and how it relates to unique individuals. I'm Connor Swalm, CEO of Phin Security, and welcome to Gone Phishing. Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Connor, CEO at Phin, and welcome to Gone Phishing, the podcast where we talk about everything phishing. That's phishing with a PH for you actual anglers out there. And we're going to talk today about how important automation is in your security awareness program. So, a couple of things I'd like to chat about before we dive into some of the talking points. One, Phin, that is my company, we work exclusively for MSPs. And MSPs is a managed service provider, if you're unaware, that serves hundreds, if not thousands, of small to medium to enterprise-sized customers. Think about bringing IT and security expertise to the 99 point whatever percent, 97 point whatever percent of employees that don't work at a Fortune 500 company, specifically here in the US, where we're based. And so automation for anyone that's an MSP, automation is an incredibly powerful tool that, if not leveraged correctly, could result in incredible costs to your company for providing services that could be automated in some way, shape, or form. So automation in general for MSPs is like one of the critical things that they worry about on a continuous basis. And any amount of automation that they can create is automation that they would like to create. That's how important it is. So, given that, how important is automation and awareness training? So I will address some of these points that I'll go over with actual real world conversations I've had with technicians at MSPs that have told me how they build certain programs, the way that they do that, and how much time, effort, energy, and what their experience is in building programs. And essentially, long story short, all of those conversations I built into a use case that then me and our wonderful employees here have then built into a platform to solve. So that is how important it was for the MSPs, is that automation did not exist, that they wanted to take advantage of, and we end up saving MSPs tons of time. That's why it's here. So that's how important it is. So how have SAT programs been managed in the past? I'm gonna say, what does a run-of-the-mill awareness training program look like? And I know that it's not run-of-the-mill, but it's what is the average program where there's, I guess, little to no automation, or that what do technicians typically have to do to get a program up and running? So it's this. You can upload the employees of a company to a platform or to some other kind of mechanism. You can do that through a CSV that you import on a consistent basis, or through a connection to Exchange, Azure AD, Google Workspace, whatever you're using as your employee database. So you get employees into your platform. And then the second thing that you do is you build a training program. The training program will typically be mostly set in stone by maybe compliance requirements that you have to abide by, maybe by your cyber insurance policy telling you to, educate on different topics. Or if you're really savvy, maybe you're looking at, CIS controls, and you look at CIS control 14 and you go through all of implementation group 1, and then you go through the last point, 14.9 on implementation group 2, where you are actually creating role-specific training for groups of individuals. There's some topics in there that they'll address. So what it's typically taken for an awareness training program to get up and running is the uploading of those users by hand. Then you have to continuously make sure that those users stay up to date, that there's no removed users that need to be removed, there's no added users that need to be added, no updated users. Sometimes you got to do that by hand, which is painful. The second thing for these training contents, if you're not launching them all at once, a lot of times you will have to build this program. You'll have to select, let's say it's one video a month, 12 videos. It's just really simple for math's sakes right now. You'll have to schedule those out, and you'll have to deliver them for all of the employees in that company. If you're an MSP, you'll have to go to your second company. You'll have to rebuild that program. Maybe you'll have to adjust it in a few ways, and then you'll have to launch it there. What I'm getting at is you have to repeat everything over and over and over again. For a lot of MSPs, this is what they told me their experience was over the last few years. And then you're not done yet. You got to do the same thing with phishing. So you got to select the unique phishing assessments. You got to deliver them to users or schedule them out to be delivered. And then you have to go to your second, third, fourth, and fifth client. Have to rebuild that all from scratch again. That is the average experience that has been described to me by the technicians that I've talked to. So what that requires, a lot of time. It requires an incredible amount of time. And a lot of that time is spent doing work over and over and over and over again. It's the worst kind of work to ever do. And most of the technicians I talk to, they can't wait to pawn that work off to somebody else. And that is selecting the phishes, the trainings, and actually uploading the users. Most of the technicians I talk to. And so at some level, what I've told to some technicians when I was actually doing the selling for Phin was, we're here to give you your time back. How cool would it be, or how much better would your life get if you didn't have to spend the first 2 hours of your day going into a subset of your clients and reselecting phishing emails? You don't have to be an expert at selecting which phishes go out. You don't have to be an expert at selecting which content needs to get put in front of which users. You don't need to do anything. We'll do that for you. That was the value add that really resonated with them. And so that is very important for MSPs. So most partners that we work with deploy, let's say, north of 20 clients. That is when repetitive, consistent building programs with phishing and training gets onerous at about 20 partners. That starts to be enough of a workload on a consistent basis, making sure everything is running, making sure reporting is configured correctly, making sure no programs have lapsed, making sure your allow listing is still working and Microsoft isn't screwing with things. Typically at about 20 clients is when it starts to become the major role of somebody's full-time job almost. At about 70 clients, it is somebody's full-time job in a lot of cases. So that's the scale of the problem when there is no automation. This not only saves technicians time, but important point I bring up is, what are the activities that actually generate that your client actually wants you to work on for them? And a lot of it has to go back to your client doesn't necessarily care if you're an expert in selecting the right phishing emails and the right training content, doing all this thing. What they do care about is that you are a resource of expertise and professionalism, specifically in IT infrastructure and cybersecurity. And you're not going to communicate that to them by rebuilding phishing and training campaigns over and over and over again, every year and every client, or however often you decide to do it. What would help communicate to your client that you are that resource is meeting with them on a more consistent basis, or being able to spend more face time with them and actually show them, demonstrate to them that you are that partnership for them. And so when we take that time away, when automation takes that time away from technicians and gives it back to them, that's when you can start to get into the much more impactful behaviors and things that you would like your employees at your MSP to do. That's what we advocate for. So literally, we have, I talk with partners all the time, and we have a partner council that I meet with, and it's, how can we make your job easier? What would you wish that you had the time to do that you're ignoring because of X, Y, and Z issues? So automation is kind of like the light at the end of the tunnel. It's the tool that needs to be leveraged very, very effectively in order to give you the time back. And kind of like a second point that I mentioned here is, I can't tell you how many MSP folk have come up to me, how many security practice, just cybersecurity folk in general. And one thing that gives them heartburn is they feel like they need to be an expert in every single area of IT infrastructure and security. That's what their client is depending upon them for. And if you are building everything on your own by hand over and over again, you absolutely need to be that expert. If you're leveraging relationships and partnerships and tools and platforms that are able to do that for you in some kind of automated fashion, because that's what they've dedicated their lives to, that just gives you an incredible amount of scalability and removes some of that heartburn. So you need to be really careful about the partnerships you create, but when done correctly, you can leverage them super effectively. That's what I've seen. And the last point that I'll make here is, at the end of the day, the outcome we want to create together is to reduce the risk that social engineering turns into the theft of information, access, or money in a client, in a person. And so what the heck does any of this automation have to do with helping that goal, with keeping end users secure and with actually accomplishing that goal? And I will posit this that I've heard from more than a few partners, more than a few MSPs in the industry, is there were several instances where programs lapsed, training did not occur, phishing assessments did not go out, reporting stopped in portions of their client base, and they didn't recognize it because there was no alert, there was no automation that kept things running. And essentially, the clients were paying for something they weren't receiving, which on its own is an issue. But secondarily, I've run into several companies where they may or may not qualify for cyber insurance coverage, because when they hand that cyber insurance questionnaire to their security partner or to their internal team, and they say, do you do A, B, and C? And then you go and check that, and that's not happening. That becomes a problem. And that's when things get a little trickier. So it could come down to automation might be one of the reasons why you're able to scale your security services. Specifically, if a security service you offer is not scalable, it will not be profitable in a lot of ways, or as profitable as it could be to deliver. And I don't like to say I'm an expert, but I've been around the block a little bit on this very small segment of security, which is human vulnerability management. But I can see how a lot of the principles would apply to every other area, and so do many MSPs. So I hope that I was able to communicate today the importance of automation. There are a lot of really neat tools that are coming out for y'all as MSPs and y'all as security practitioners to help automate a lot of this. Again, the biggest peace of mind that I've seen, the biggest positive benefit I've seen for partners and for cybersecurity practitioners is reducing that mental load of needing to be the expert in every area. Automation can help with a lot of it if you do it with the right partner. That's the biggest benefit. And so what I would encourage you to do is take stock. What are you spending time doing? What are you repeating over and over again that you could potentially, automate a bit, or potentially lean on your partner or lean on the vendor you're working with? If you're an internal IT team or if you're an MSP, that's what I would recommend you do. As always, you can reach us through our website, find me on LinkedIn, find the company on LinkedIn. That's phinsec.io is our website. I am Connor Swalm, the CEO at Phin, and thank you for phishing with me today. Thanks so much for tuning in to Gone Phishing. If you want to find out more about high-quality security awareness training campaigns, how to launch them in ways that actually engage employees to change their habits, then check us out, Phin Security, at phinsec.io. That's phinsec.io, or click all of the wonderful links in our show notes. Thanks for phishing with me today, and we'll see you next time.